30-year-old Billy Myers and 32-year-old Christina Myers are behind bars in connection to the death of their 5-year-old daughter. On Monday, the 24th of July, deputies from the Randolph County Sheriff's Office responded to a home at 5232 Needham's Trail in Seagrove, North Carolina, after receiving a service call to complete a welfare check and found a 5-year-old girl deceased. The Randolph County Criminal Investigations Division responded to the scene, located evidence and identified Billy and Christina as the primary suspects in the child's death. They were arrested and charged with felony abuse of a child. They're held at the Randolph County Detention Center on a $250,000 secure bond. Authorities did not specify what the evidence was. However, a video of where the child lived depicted squalid conditions, with rooms piled with waste. Michael Anderson, the uncle of the girl, described the 5-year-old as lovable and that she laughed a lot. He said his niece required constant care because of medical conditions, saying she had cerebral palsy and seizures. He said she had a tube in her stomach to feed her to take her medicine that way, and she had leg braces. He also said the Department of Social Services had stopped by the house 3 different times in the last couple of years. He claims it was because the 5-year-old had so many health issues. Michael said their parents love their 3 children and would never abuse them. "Hope they get to come home because I know they love all 3 of their kids," he said. In 2019, Christina faced a misdemeanor child abuse charge, but the district attorney later dropped that charge against her. Michael said the other 2 children who lived in the home are now staying with an aunt. The investigation into the matter continues. Authorities are investigating after a 38-year-old man was fatally shot at a party over the weekend. At around 2:10 a.m. on Sunday the 23rd of July, authorities responded to a property in the 400 block of North Roosevelt Avenue in Sun River Terrace, Illinois, on reports of shots fired and subsequently a person shot at a large gathering. When deputies arrived, they observed numerous vehicles fleeing the area and about 100 bystanders and partygoers remaining on scene while others frantically rendered aid to the gunshot victim. The victim, identified as 38-year-old Weston Penniman, later died from his injuries. Kankakee County Sheriff Mike Downey said, "Our thoughts and prayers to the friends and family of Mr. Penniman. I encourage anyone with information to contact our investigators in hopes that those responsible for his death can be brought to justice." Authorities continue to collect evidence and speak with witnesses as the investigation into the matter continues. An 83-year-old former reverend has been arrested for allegedly killing an 8-year-old girl in 1975 while she was on her way to his Bible camp. At around 9:30 a.m. on the 15th of August 1975, Gretchen Harrington was walking alone from her home at 27 Lawrence Road in Broomall, Pennsylvania, to the Trinity Chapel of the Christian Reformed Church just over a quarter of a mile down the road for summer Bible camp, when the suspect David Zanstra allegedly drove up to her in his green station wagon. David was a reverend at the camp and a friend of the Harrington family. David was also the father of one of Gretchen's friends, so the 8-year-old got in his car. At 11:23 a.m. that day, Gretchen was reported missing. On the 14th of October 1975, her skeletal remains were discovered about 5 miles from her home in Ridley Creek State Park. A witness reportedly told police they saw Gretchen get in the 2-ton car, but David allegedly denied seeing Gretchen that day. David allegedly gave authorities specific descriptions of Gretchen's clothes, even though he had denied seeing her that day. On the 2nd of January 2023, investigators spoke with a woman who was David's daughter's best friend when they were children. The woman said she often had sleepovers at David's house, and one time she allegedly woke up to David groping her groin area. A friend told David's daughter, and she said her father did that sometimes. Her friend also said someone in the class was nearly kidnapped twice. She reportedly wrote in a diary that she thought David was a suspect. Investigators tracked David down to his home in Marietta, Georgia, and spoke with him on the 17th of July 2023. David denied seeing Gretchen the day of her disappearance, but then backtracked after learning about what his daughter's friend alleged. David admitted to driving a green station wagon that day and took Gretchen to a wooded area. He told her to take off her clothes, and when she said no, he struck her in the head with his fist. She began bleeding and he believed she was dead, so he attempted to cover up her body and left the area. David was arrested in Georgia and is charged with multiple murder charges, kidnapping of a minor and possession of an instrument of crime. He remains held at the Cobb County Jail without bail. He's fighting extradition back to Pennsylvania. The investigation into the matter continues. Authorities are investigating after a 19-year-old man died after being shot outside a restaurant. At just before 12:30 a.m. on Friday the 21st of July, authorities responded to a walk-in person shot at Ascension St. Vincent Hospital on 86th Street in Indianapolis, Indiana. When officers arrived, they found Nuruddin Mokhtar Mohammadou in a critical condition. At around 1 a.m, Nuruddin succumbed to his injuries. Investigators learnt that Nuruddin was shot in the parking lot of an Arby's restaurant at 7002 Georgetown Road, where investigators found at least a dozen shell casings. The restaurant was closed at the time of the shooting, but workers still cleaning up heard the shots and ran to the back of the kitchen. No bullets appeared to have hit the building. Investigators said that after Nuruddin was shot, a friend rushed him to the hospital. No arrests have been made, and police have not identified any suspects as the investigation into the matter continues. A 21-year-old pregnant woman was fatally shot, and 4 others injured after a fight broke out at a park. At 1:14 a.m. on Saturday the 22nd of July, authorities responded to Margaret Jenkins Park at 10700 Rosehaven Drive in Houston, Texas, after ShotSpotter technology detected 3 dozen shots fired at that location. Upon arriving at the scene, investigators learnt that a fight broke out between several groups of people at the park, where an altercation led to some taking out firearms and shooting. The victim, identified as Autumn Lachey Valian, was with her friends and family at a birthday party cookout when the fight broke out. She got caught up in the crossfire while trying to leave the area. Autumn, who was pronounced dead at the scene, was 5 months pregnant at the time. Her unborn child also did not survive the shooting. Autumn's mother, Ebony Valian, said that my daughter came telling me, pulling me, "Mama, let's get away. Let's get away." I looked back. My baby was down on the ground, gone, she said. Ebony said, "I just lost my baby. She was in school trying to get a job, trying to become something, and she's gone now." Autumn's family said that our first time seeing the baby will be when we bury her. We will never get the chance to see her as a mother. Authorities said that 4 other people were struck by gunfire. 3 of the people struck were transported to a local hospital, 2 of whom were the suspected shooters, and are reportedly in a stable condition. 1 person suffered a graze wound and did not go to hospital. The 2 shooting suspects have been detained at the hospital. Police are investigating to see if there are any additional suspects. No charges have been announced to date. A homicide investigation is underway after a 26-year-old man was fatally shot at a party over the weekend. At around 3 a.m. on Saturday the 22nd of July, authorities responded to a building along the 300 block of West Hampton Street in Anderson, South Carolina on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a man in a critical condition with gunshot wounds. Medics treated him at the scene and rushed him to a local hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries at 3:35 a.m. A coroner's office identified the victim as 26-year-old Derek Lamar Wiley of Anderson. Authorities said it appears that Derek was attending a party with a large gathering of people and was involved in an altercation resulting in him being shot multiple times. His death has been ruled a homicide. No arrests or suspects have been named to date, as the investigation into the matter continues. "27-year-old Anton Arnold is behind bars after fatally beating 47-year-old John McCall. On Thursday the 13th of July, authorities were called to the Prisma Health Greenville Memorial Hospital in South Carolina after John was admitted with multiple blunt force blows to his head and face. Upon further investigation, authorities learnt that Anton committed the assault on the victim at a home about 4 miles away on Probst Drive in Powdersville. Anton was located, interviewed and later arrested, and initially charged with assault and battery of a high and aggravated nature, while John remained hospitalised. Authorities said that Anton admitted to beating John with a metal baseball bat. Days later, John passed away from his injuries. After an autopsy was completed, Anton's charge was upgraded to murder. He's been held without bond at the Anderson County Detention Center. The relationship between the men and the motive in the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. 33-year-old Rod Shad Balzer Highsmith is behind bars in connection to a double homicide outside of a restaurant. At just before 4 a.m. on Saturday the 22nd of July, authorities responded to the parking lot of the Waffle House at 188 South Dixie Boulevard in Radcliffe, Kentucky, and reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they found 2 deceased men with gunshot wounds. The victims were identified as 18-year-old Shane Estrada and 30-year-old Carlos Bello. Investigators said that Rod Shad was captured on video and audio surveillance talking to someone about taking a gun from one of the victims. Rod Shad then shot multiple rounds at a vehicle leaving the Waffle House, with the 2 victims inside, fatally wounding them. On the afternoon of Monday the 24th of July, Rod Shad was arrested on charges of murder and robbery. Investigators said that Rod Shad freely admitted to his involvement in the shooting. He's been held at the Hardin County Detention Center on a $500,000 bond. Police said that no other injuries were reported and are still working hard on the investigation. It's unclear at this time whether there'll be any additional arrests in connection to the shooting. The investigation into the matter continues. 4 people behind bars for attempting to kidnap a man. On Thursday the 20th of July, Davidson County deputies were called to an attempted kidnapping and shooting at 185 Whisper Drive in Denton, North Carolina. After deputies arrived at the scene, they found the victim with a gunshot wound to his leg. The man said that 4 friends came to his property and ordered him into the trunk of their car at gunpoint. He said that when he tried running away, he was shot in the leg. The man identified the suspects as Jeremy Davis, Kevin Hewlin, Rebecca Mansell and Sheena Ambrose. The suspects had all fled the scene before deputies arrived. The victim was taken to Rowan Regional Hospital, where he was treated and released. Detectives soon located the suspect's vehicle parked about 12 miles away from the scene of the kidnapping attempt at 8917 Woodsterry Road, a known address for one of the suspects. Detectives quickly gained a search warrant for the residence and conducted the search with the help of the Randolph County Sheriff's Office Special Emergency Response Team. The suspects soon barricaded themselves inside the home. Following several orders over a loudspeaker for everyone to exit the house, chemicals were used to force the suspects outside. The 4 people quickly came out and were all identified as the kidnapping suspects. All 4 were taken into custody without further incident and charged with assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, inflicting serious bodily injury, and second-degree kidnapping. Deputies retrieved multiple firearms from the home believed to be used in the shooting and kidnapping attempt. The suspects are held at the Davidson County Jail, each on a $150,000 secure bond. Police have identified a man wanted in the murder of 21-year-old university student Ayanna Morgan, who was fatally shot over the weekend. At 10:09 p.m. on Sunday the 23rd of July, police responded to the Muse Apartments at 1799 Russellville Road in Bowling Green, Kentucky for an assault in progress. When officers arrived, they found a man trying to help Ayanna, who was in a critical condition suffering from 2 gunshot wounds. Police said Ayanna was shot in a left collarbone with an exit wound under her left breast and a gunshot wound to her left leg. The responding officer stated Ayanna was saying "God forgive me" and she couldn't breathe. She was transported to a local hospital and then airlifted to Nashville Trauma Center, where she died early the next morning. Authorities said they believe Ayanna was involved in a brief struggle prior to being shot. Investigators said that the man who was trying to help Ayanna was a food delivery driver. He told police that he and his girlfriend saw a Hispanic man coming around the corner of the building and doing a gun motion with his hand. Additionally, he told police he saw a navy blue Jeep Patriot was speeding through the parking lot that almost hit him. The pair told police that the driver looked like a black woman wearing glasses in the mid-20s with dreads. However, they stated the Jeep was driving too fast to see anyone else inside. Police said the man did not hear any gunshots in the area when he first arrived at the apartment complex. He told police that he drove slowly through the parking lot and was flagged down by an unknown man stating something was wrong. He found Ayanna laying on the ground, shot and covered in blood. He rendered aid until officers and medics arrived at the scene. Police have just announced that they have issued a warrant for the arrest of Malik Jones in Ayanna's murder. The Bowling Green Police Department says he should be considered armed and dangerous. The investigation into the matter continues. A 53-year-old man is behind bars after pointing a gun at a police officer. On the night of Friday the 21st of July, authorities responded to a residence along Long Hunters Trail in Glasgow, Kentucky in reference to a complaint. When police arrived, Sergeant Wesley Hicks of the Glasgow Police Department rang the doorbell of the residence, and a female individual answered the door with a man, identified as Michael Stuckert, standing behind her with a loaded firearm pointed at the officer. Wesley was able to draw his service weapon and began immediately giving verbal commands to Michael to drop his weapon. Michael complied and Wesley arrested him without further incident. No injuries were reported. Michael was charged with wanton endangerment, second degree of a police officer, and is held at the Barron County Detention Center on a $5,000 cash bond. Caleb Venson is behind bars for fatally shooting 3 women, including his ex, and for wounding his infant son that she was holding. At around 6:30 a.m. on Monday the 24th of July, authorities responded to a report of a triple killing at Wood Creek Apartments in East Brady Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and found 3 women dead on the floor inside an apartment. A baby boy had been shot who was also found next to one of the women. The 11-month-old infant underwent surgery and is expected to survive. Police said detectives learned Caleb got into the apartment by shooting at a sliding glass door. A 13-year-old boy was inside the apartment and hid in a back bedroom when he heard the gunshots, adding that Caleb forced the boy out of his bedroom and was then very remorseful of his actions. The boy managed to escape out of the apartment window and called for help. Police identified the deceased women as 20-year-old Anaway McKay, Caleb's ex-girlfriend 38-year-old Ashley Atwell, and 19-year-old Sarah Gonzalez. Police said Caleb initially ran away from the scene, but felt guilty and turned himself in at around 8 a.m. He was arrested for 3 counts of first-degree murder, shooting with intent to kill and first-degree burglary. Caleb has been held at the Tulsa County Jail without bond. Ashley and Caleb split up more than a year ago, and Caleb moved into the apartment across the street from Ashley. 9 months ago, Ashley filed a protective order against Caleb after he choked her, hit her, and attempted to place a gun in her mouth. The protective order, however, was later dismissed. The investigation into the matter continues. Authorities are searching for a man after he fatally shot another man during a physical altercation. At 12:24 a.m. on Friday the 21st of July, authorities responded to a shooting at the 1100 block of East 17th Street in Winston-Salem, North Carolina on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they found the victim, 26-year-old Devontae Atkins, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Despite attempting life-saving measures, he died at the scene. Detectives discovered that Devontae was in a fight with an unnamed 22-year-old man when he was shot. Police said there was an exchange of gunfire when this suspect was also shot. The suspect then fled the scene. The suspect's injuries were non-life-threatening, and police said he was treated and released from a local hospital. Detectives are working on locating the suspect. The investigation into the matter continues. A woman is wanted by police for fatally stabbing a roommate at a restaurant earlier this month during a dispute over missing money. At around 4:20 p.m. on the 8th of July, authorities responded to Keith & Son Soul Food Cafe at 5948 Martin Luther King Jr. Highway in Seat Pleasant, Maryland, on a reported stabbing. When officers arrived, they discovered 62-year-old Mervyn Daniel unresponsive inside the restaurant bathroom, suffering from a stab wound. The victim was taken to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. Authorities said that 21-year-old Rakea Poston and 37-year-old Jesse Cully, who both lived with Mervyn, got into an argument with him at the restaurant where he worked part-time. Mervyn's co-workers then separated them. Rakea and Jesse left and went to the AutoZone store across the road, but returned minutes later. Rakea then confronted Mervyn in the kitchen area over $10 that she said was missing and yelled, "I will kill everyone in this store." Investigators said that Rakea then grabbed a bread knife and stabbed Mervyn, who stumbled into the bathroom floor before collapsing. Jesse helped Rakea escape through the back door of the restaurant. Police found a bloody knife hidden on the shelf in the kitchen. Mervyn's friend Skip Fletcher said that he worked hard every day, came on the weekend to help his family run the restaurant, he said. Police have arrested Jesse and charged him with accessory after the fact. Authorities are still searching for Rakea, who's wanted for first-degree murder and related charges. The investigation into the matter continues. 31-year-old Eugene McKeithen is behind bars for fatally shooting his girlfriend, 34-year-old Veronica Smart. At 1:08 a.m. on Thursday the 20th of July, authorities responded to the intersection of Marseille and Minerva Streets in Detroit, Michigan on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Veronica laying face down and unresponsive in the middle of the street with a gunshot wound to her head. Medics arrived and pronounced her dead at the scene. Investigators said that while driving near that intersection, Eugene pulled a handgun and shot his girlfriend Veronica, fatally wounding her. Eugene then pulled her body from the vehicle, leaving her in the roadway before fleeing the scene. Eugene was arrested later that day. He's charged with first-degree murder, felony in possession of a firearm, and 2 felony firearm violations. He's held at the Wayne County Jail without bond. The motive of the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. 2 men are behind bars in connection to the death of a man. At just before 10:30 a.m. on Friday the 21st of July, authorities responded to the 400 block of South Drury Street in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and found a body in the wooded area. Investigators later identified the victim as 28-year-old Dylan Lewis. Officials have not disclosed the victim's cause of death. Police initially identified 28-year-old Troy Driscoll as a suspect in the case. Later that evening at around 8:20 p.m, investigators executed a search warrant at just over 2 miles away near 100 West Matthews Avenue, located Troy and took him into custody. He was booked into the Payne County Jail on charges of first-degree murder, third-degree burglary, and possession of drug paraphernalia. After conducting interviews with witnesses, police identified a second suspect, 31-year-old John Helfrich. At just after 2:30 a.m. on the 22nd of July, John was arrested on a charge of first-degree murder and is held at the Payne County Jail. The three men lived in Stillwater. However, police have not stated how the men knew each other, the events leading up to Dylan's death, or a motive in the attack. The investigation into the matter continues. A 33-year-old man is behind bars for assaulting a 59-year-old woman and breaking her nose because she did not say good morning to him as he walked by. At around 9 a.m. on Thursday the 13th of July, authorities responded to Belsom Street in the Dorchester neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts, on a report of a woman attacked by a stranger. When officers arrived, they found a beaten woman who told them that while she was watering her front yard, a man later identified as Ian Atkinson walked by her and then cursed her for not saying good morning to him. Suddenly fearful because of the aggressive nature of Ian's remark, the woman started video recording Ian on her cell phone. Ian, who entered a black Mercedes parked nearby, then left the car and advanced on the woman and began punching her. Home security surveillance video obtained by police shows Ian punched the victim at least 7 times in the head. The video then shows Ian return to the Mercedes, put it in reverse and swerve towards the woman before driving away. The woman, who was bleeding profusely from her nose, managed to record the car's license plate and provided it to police. She told investigators that she'd noticed Ian wearing a GPS tracking device. The woman was transported to County Hospital, where it was determined that she suffered a fractured nose and hemorrhaging to her left eye. She told police she managed to bite Ian on the shoulder during the attack. Police ran the license plate number to locate Ian at a home in Lucerne Street and found a second Mercedes registered in his name. Officers compared Ian's license photo to the man captured by the victim's phone video and determined them to be the same person. The victim later identified Ian as her attacker in a photo lineup. Police also determined that Ian was wearing a GPS tracker under the conditions of a separate assault case. Information from the tracker placed Ian directly at the Balsam Street location at the time of the assault. Ian was taken into custody. Ian argued that he was defending himself because the woman was biting him. He said that the woman was the aggressor and sprayed him with a garden hose, but the video showed none of that, and there was no water on the ground. Ian was arrested and charged with assault and battery causing serious bodily injury and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. At a court hearing on Tuesday the 25th of July, a judge found Ian to be dangerous and ordered him to remain behind bars for 120 days. He's due back in court in September. The investigation into the matter continues. 34-year-old Tabitha Frank is behind bars after a 2-year-old son fell from the 3rd floor apartment window and later died. At around 3:30 p.m. on Saturday the 22nd of July, authorities responded to an apartment complex at the intersection of Capitol and Row Avenues in Hartford, Connecticut after receiving a call about a child who fell from a window. The toddler was unresponsive and suffering from severe injuries when officers and paramedics arrived. He was transported to a local hospital, where he later died. Hartford Police Lieutenant Aaron Boysford said that the boy's very bad fall appears to be a case of neglect, and there were 4 other children at the residence, all under the age of 12. He described the home's living condition as very deplorable. It was also noted that the air in the apartment was heavy with an overwhelming foul odour. Lieutenant Boysford confirmed that the toddler fell after a screen came off. The children were reportedly home alone when the incident occurred. Tabitha was arrested and charged with 10 counts of risk of injury to a child. She was released after posting a $100,000 bond. Tabitha will likely face other charges that align with the boy's death. She's scheduled to appear in court on the 3rd of August. The investigation into the matter continues. A 24-year-old woman has been charged with murder after one of her 5-month-old twin sons died of starvation on Christmas, while the other was close to dying. Tamir Tomlin was initially arrested on the 28th of December 2022 on 2 counts of abuse of a child with serious physical injury. She was additionally charged with murder on the 24th of July after further police investigation. On the 25th of December 2022, Tamir called 911 and said her infant son, Amir Wright, was not breathing. She said she had recently fed both of the twins before putting them down for a nap, and that she fell asleep herself. She said that she woke up a couple of hours later. Her blankets were soiled and she looked at one of the twins and he was not breathing, so she called 911. Medics rushed to Tamir's apartment at 4011 McIntosh Street in Greensboro, North Carolina, and transported the twins to a local hospital, where Amir was pronounced dead. Investigators said they found minimal food at Tamir's residence, and there was no fresh formula and the milk was curdled. An autopsy determined that the boy died of malnutrition and starvation, and the boy's death was determined to be a homicide. Amir's twin reportedly looked like skin and bones, and the boy's joints were visible, and he appeared to be very malnourished. Doctors noted that the twin was also near death due to malnutrition. Tamir moved from Ohio to North Carolina and gave birth to the twins 2 days later. The boys reportedly weighed 4.5 pounds when they were born and had traces of THC in their system. They weighed 5 pounds when they were 5 months old. Tamir admitted to authorities that she had interactions with Child Protective Services in the past. She's been held at the Guilford County Jail without bond. A 50-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting a 55-year-old man during an altercation. At around 9:30 a.m. on Thursday the 27th of July, authorities responded to a Shell gas station at McColl and Hasty Roads in Laurinburg, North Carolina, on reports of a disturbance and then shots fired. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a deceased man in the driver's seat of a black Honda Pilot parked next to the car wash with a gunshot wound. The victim was identified as 55-year-old Clifton Thomas of Bennettsville. During the investigation, authorities discovered that Clifton and another man got into an argument, and then witnesses heard gunshots. Witnesses said the suspect then fled the scene in a light blue Hyundai. Later that day, police said that the suspect, identified as 50-year-old Robert McLeod of Laurinburg, turned himself in. Robert is charged with first-degree murder and is currently being held at the Scotland County Detention Centre. The investigation into the matter continues. Authorities have determined that a 5-year-old boy was high on cocaine when he fatally shot his 1-year-old brother, who had marijuana in his system. At 2:52 p.m. on Monday the 24th of July, the parents, 27-year-old Deontay Johnson and 24-year-old Shatir Welch, were arrested during a traffic stop at LaPorta, Indiana, and faced multiple neglect and drug charges, including neglect resulting in death. In addition, Deontay faces an obstructing justice charge. At 3:02 p.m. on the 28th of March, authorities responded to an apartment at 504 Westchester Lane in Lafayette, Indiana, on reports of a child not breathing. When officers arrived, they found a deceased 1-year-old boy named Isaiah Johnson with a gunshot wound to his head. Upon further investigation, authorities discovered that the baby's 5-year-old brother found a handgun inside the family's Romney Meadows apartment and shot him. Following the death, toxicology results showed the toddler tested positive for marijuana, while his older brother had cocaine in his system. Deontay told police he's alone with the 2 boys and that he was asleep on the couch when he heard a loud boom, and he ran upstairs and found his baby son unresponsive in his bedroom. At the time, Deontay denied his child had been shot and repeatedly denied having a gun in the apartment, and initially claimed Isaiah had been injured by falling, or an injury caused by his older son. Deontay eventually told officers that Shatir owns a handgun and that she usually keeps the gun on the shelving unit near the front door to the apartment. He said he last saw the gun a few days prior to the incident, and it was locked in a safe under the bed. Upon further probing, Deontay said he heard a noise which woke him up, and he saw his older son downstairs asking for a bowl of cereal. Deontay said he prepared a bowl of cereal before going to check on his younger son. He said he went to the upstairs bedroom when he found Isaiah deceased. He said that he then called Shatir. While officers were investigating the incident, Shatir arrived home and told police she left the apartment hours before the incident. She said she missed a call from Deontay, then received a message which stated that Isaiah was dead. She said that she then called 911 and rushed to the apartment. She said she kept a handgun under a bed in a lockbox, but admitted to having lost one of the 2 sets of keys. She went on to say that a 5-year-old would not know what the keys belonged to. Officers searching the apartment, however, said they found a gun and the keys to a Nissan in the top dresser drawer of a bedroom. They also found drug paraphernalia and 93 fentanyl pills, all within reach of the 5-year-old boy. Investigators also said that surveillance cameras from the apartment complex captured Deontay leaving his apartment and placing a bag into a car after his son died. When police searched the car, they found 400 grams of marijuana stashed inside. Authorities said that electronic devices and social media records from Deontay contain messages about selling drugs. Both parents remain in custody and await extradition to Lafayette. Deontay's trial is scheduled for the 28th of November, and Shatir's is due to begin on the 12th of December. A 65-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting his 25-year-old son during a fight over 25 cents. At around 6:30 p.m. on Saturday the 22nd of July, authorities responded to a home on the 2800 block of Warner Street in Madison, Wisconsin, after John Shively called 911 and admitted to shooting his son Zachary Shively. When officers arrived at the residence, they found John with blood on his hands and clothes and confirmed his son was dead. John told investigators that he and his son were arguing over finances when the argument turned physical. John then used Zachary's firearm and shot him in the chest. Authorities learnt that Zachary asked John for cash, though John said that he didn't have any. He eventually gave Zachary $2, though his son said he needed $2.50. Zachary had some change on him, but he needed 25 cents more to get to the amount. John told detectives that he's behind on his mortgage payments and other taxes, so he did not want to give Zachary money. He said his son often asked him for money. During their argument, he told investigators that his son hit him and pushed him into the corner, where he landed in a chair and bumped his head on the wall. John said that he tried to walk upstairs, but Zachary pulled him back down. John then picked up the pistol, which was on one of the bottom steps. He admitted to police, "I can't tell you how much I regret that I picked it up, thinking that he'll finally back down, which he didn't do, so I shot him point blank." Officers reportedly found the gun on the floor pointing to Zachary's body. John is charged with first-degree intentional homicide and use of a dangerous weapon. He is held at the Dane County Jail and his bond's been set at $300,000. The investigation into the matter continues. A 78-year-old man is behind bars after fatally shooting his 59-year-old girlfriend during a dispute. At around 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, the 27th of July, authorities responded to a trailer park along the 100 block of Northridge Circle in Troy, Alabama on reports of someone shot. When officers arrived, they found a deceased woman on the ground in the front yard of the home with a gunshot wound. The woman was identified as Essie Meadows, and the gun used in the shooting was found at the scene. Upon further investigation, authorities identified Larvie Woods as a suspect. Officers located him nearby in the same mobile home park, and he was taken into custody. Authorities said that the suspect and the victim were dating, and the motive is believed to be domestic related. Investigators said that in the lead up to the shooting, Larvie had been arrested for multiple incidents of misdemeanor domestic violence. Larvie has been charged with murder, and is held at the Pike County Jail without bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A 35-year-old theft suspect wanted by police is behind bars after she demanded police shoot her while using her daughter as a human shield. At 8:58 p.m. on Thursday, the 20th of July, Tanisha Selena Henry led police on a 25-mile chase of speeds of up to 100 miles per hour in the Houston, Texas area. During the pursuit, she made multiple unsafe lane changes along the service roads of Interstate 45 and then travelled the wrong way along Airport Boulevard. The pursuit ended in the parking lot of the shopping strip along the 14,400 block of Cullen Boulevard after Tanisha ran out of gas. Deputies performed a felony stop of the vehicle, but Tanisha refused to comply and pulled a 14-year-old daughter from the vehicle. Tanisha then placed a crying daughter in a chokehold and placed her in front of her as a human shield. Harris County Precinct 8 Constable's Office Deputy A. Peters, who responded to assist Webster Police in pursuit of a theft suspect wanted by Bel Air Police, said, "At that point I 100% believed that we had a hostage situation," she said. "I distinctly remember her at times saying, 'Shoot, shoot me, shoot us.' To put your family member, not to mention your daughter, right in front of that potential danger is just kind of crazy to me," she said. Deputy Peters managed to get behind Tanisha and use a taser to subdue her. A third person believed to be a romantic partner of Tanisha was found in the suspect's vehicle. He was placed in the patrol car, and Tanisha was apprehended. Deputies conducted a search of the vehicle and located 22 pieces of identifying information including Texas driver's licenses, Texas security license, debit cards and credit cards, social security cards and health insurance cards. Further investigation revealed the identifying items were taken without consent, and Tanisha had attempted to use the debit and credit cards. Tanisha was charged with evading arrest, child endangerment and fraud. She remains held at the Harris County Jail on a $20,000 bond. Tanisha's daughter remains in the care of a grandparent. The investigation into the matter continues. A 47-year-old man has been hospitalized and is facing charges after getting stuck in a chimney while trying to enter a home of someone who has a court order against him. At around 1 a.m. on Friday the 28th of July, police and fire departments went to a home at 5041 North 39th Drive in Phoenix, Arizona, because Irvin Ortiz Guzman attempted to enter the residence from the roof. The family who lives in the house said they know Irvin. Police said that Irvin was technically not allowed to be in the residence due to a court order. Phoenix Fire Captain Kim Ragsdale said that the firefighters were able to monitor the atmosphere around him at all times. They were able to have contact with him at all times, speak to the gentleman and provide water for him. Captain Ragsdale said that the chimney flues are relatively small and are not capable of having a human go in and out of them. Technical rescue teams arrived at the home and were able to secure Irvin with a harness and rope system, preventing him from slipping down the chimney any further. After breaking a wall from the inside, Irvin was successfully lifted out of the chimney. It took roughly 2 hours to free the man. After the rescue, Irvin was taken to a hospital for treatment and is expected to be okay. Irvin is facing multiple charges that include criminal trespassing and an order of protection violation. The investigation into the matter continues. A 31-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting his girlfriend's 30-year-old ex-boyfriend after the woman was assaulted by her ex. At around 2 p.m. on Thursday, the 27th of July, authorities responded to the intersection of 3rd and Earl Streets in the Dayton's Bluff neighborhood of St. Paul, Minnesota on a reported shooting. When officers arrived, they found Jermaine Baker lying in the street, deceased from multiple gunshot wounds. Witnesses said that Lazarus Burns was standing at the bus stop with the woman when Jermaine got off the bus and ran up to the man and the woman at the bus stop. Jermaine knocked the woman to the ground, grabbed her hair and was yelling and smashing her face in. When Jermaine stopped hitting the woman, Lazarus fired multiple shots at him as he ran away, and he collapsed in the street. Police found him with 2 gunshot wounds to the torso, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. The woman told police that she had dated Jermaine on and off for about 4 years, and had started dating Lazarus a few days ago. She said that Jermaine frequently assaulted her, but never reported it, and that she heard Lazarus tell him to chill before she heard the gunshots. The woman was left with a swollen face and multiple bumps on her head. Lazarus told police that he did not know Jermaine, and that he heard him say "that's my bitch bro" before he attacked the woman. Lazarus told the officers that he witnessed abuse before in his life, and that when he saw Jermaine attack his girlfriend he blacked out and shot him. Lazarus is charged with second-degree murder, and is held at the Ramsey County Jail. If convicted, he faces up to 40 years in prison. Authorities are investigating after a 39-year-old woman was fatally shot. At just before midday on the 27th of July, authorities responded to the 6500 block of University Hills Boulevard in the neighborhood of Oak Cliff in Dallas, Texas on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they found Beck Alvarado Tamayo dead from a gunshot wound. Investigators have not disclosed the motive or any suspects in the shooting. Friends and family of Beck said that she was a loving and caring mother of 6 children, and that she worked hard and always brought joy to her family. No further details have been provided on the case, as the investigation into the matter continues. 19-year-old Zachary Ramirez is behind bars for fatally shooting 2 people. At around 3:45 a.m. on Thursday, the 27th of July, authorities responded to the 300 block of North Moore Street in Old Town, Wichita, Kansas on a report of 2 people shot. Police said that a street sweeper operator found 20-year-old Josefina Loma Dominguez and 21-year-old Brian Lara Hernandez shot to death in a vehicle in a parking garage in Old Town Square next to the recently closed Regal Warren movie theatre. Police used surveillance cameras and license plate reading technology to identify and lead them to the double homicide suspect. Later that afternoon, Zachary was located a couple miles away and he was arrested after a standoff in nearby Riverside. He is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and criminal discharge of a firearm. He's held at the Sedgwick County Jail without bond. 22-year-old Joel Thomas Ferrer is behind bars for fatally shooting his aunt's boyfriend during a dispute. At 11:11 p.m. on Thursday, the 27th of July, authorities responded to Goldham at Regency Oaks Apartments at 104 Monarch Circle in Casabria, Florida in regards to shots fired. A neighbour rang 911 after hearing gunshots and screaming nearby. When officers arrived, they found 41-year-old David Jackson outside the complex shot multiple times. He was rushed to the Orlando Regional Medical Center, where he underwent emergency surgery that was pronounced dead at just before midnight. Authorities learned that David and his girlfriend 32-year-old Trisha Ferrer lived together and Trisha's nephew Joel was staying with the couple temporarily. When David and Trish were in the bedroom, they could hear Joel manipulating a firearm in the bathroom. David went to the bathroom to confront Joel for mishandling the handgun. The pair got into a heated argument, and they both went outside where the dispute turned physical. Joel then fired his gun at David at least 8 times, striking him several times before fleeing the scene. At around 10:30 a.m. on Saturday the 29th of July, Joel turned himself into the Seminole County Jail and is charged with second-degree murder. The investigation into the matter continues. A Lowe's employee has recently been fired after trying to stop thieves from stealing merchandise. On the 25th of June, 3 people entered the Rincon, Georgia store along Highway 21 and loaded up a shopping cart with $2,100 worth of items. As the group left without paying, 68-year-old Donna Hansborough grabbed onto the cart being pushed by Takia Berry. Takia then punched Donna in the face 3 times, giving her a swollen black eye. Takia, who was with her uncle Joseph Berry and another man police identified as Jama Lawton, then made off with the goods. Investigators said they were able to arrest Jama, but they're still looking for Takia and Joseph, who remain on the run. Donna ended up being fired from Lowe's for violating the store's policy by attempting to stop the crooks. Donna said that they say that if you see somebody stealing something out the door, do not pursue, do not go out. I lost it, she said. I grabbed the cart. I don't actually remember going out, but I did, and I grabbed the cart that had stolen items in it. The former store employee said she became overwhelmed by instinct, but never thought her employer would let her go. I didn't expect to get terminated, she said. Maybe a reprimand or a suspension. I just got tired of seeing things get out the door. I just lost it. I basically lost all the training, everything they tell you to do. I just lost it, she said. Donna is currently looking for another job. I just can't sit at home. I'm not that type of person, she said. The 68-year-old had worked for the company for 13 years. The investigation into the matter continues. A sex offender who was released from prison cut off his ankle monitor the next day before being found overdosing on drugs. 29-year-old Albert Gardner served a 9.5-year sentence for assaulting a minor before he was paroled and placed on supervised release on the 7th of July. At just before 2 a.m. on Saturday the 8th of July, a parole officer noticed that Albert's GPS tracker had been at a 7-Eleven gas station at 765 South Broad Street in Brooksville, Florida for an unusual amount of time, triggering a search for Albert. When deputies arrived at the convenience store, they found Albert's ankle monitor in a trash can, but there's no sign of Albert. Shortly after finding the tracker, a call came in about an overdose at an apartment less than a mile down the road at 635 West Fort Dade Avenue. Deputies responded to the scene and found that the person overdosing was Albert. His sister said that he had taken an unknown narcotic. Deputies gave Albert some Narcan, reversing the overdose. Albert was transported to Bravura Health, Brooksville by ambulance, where he was medically cleared. Albert was arrested and charged with violating parole and tampering with an electronic monitoring device. He's held at the Hernando County Detention Center without bond. 39-year-old Jacob Scheck is behind bars for the stabbing and beating death of his 72-year-old father, Frederick Scheck. In the early morning hours of Wednesday the 19th of July, authorities responded to a home at 5038 Holiday Road in Minnetonka, Minnesota, after a resident of the home's lower level reported an unresponsive man. When officers arrived, they encountered both the woman who called and Jacob, who was only wearing gym shorts with blood on his hands and right foot. As officers made their way to the kitchen, they said they found Frederick dead on the floor, with multiple blunt force trauma injuries to his face, head and neck, as well as lacerations. Officers at the scene then located a knife in the kitchen sink covered in blood. When the woman was interviewed, she told the investigators that she had seen the two men earlier that evening, with Jacob drinking alcohol and giving his father a hard time, while the elder man worked on the pool. The woman then told investigators that she went to bed at around 8:30 p.m. and heard a loud crash on the upper level of the home, which sounded like someone stomping. She said that Frederick's wife called her several times, asking if she heard from either Frederick or Jacob, because they weren't answering their phones. At 1 a.m., the woman said she was woken up by the family dog, which she let outside before going to the home's upper level and finding Jacob asleep on the couch. She asked Jacob where his father was, and shortly after, found Frederick's lifeless body on the kitchen floor. She asked Jacob what happened, to which he replied he needed to die. Jacob told her, "I was going to give him crab legs, and then he just needs to die. And Mum knows he needs to die, and I would have just let Mum handle it." Jacob was then arrested on suspicion of murder and taken into custody. After performing an autopsy, the Hennepin County Medical Examiner determined Frederick's cause of death was a result of blunt force injuries, including multiple fractures to his skull, face, neck and ribs. He also suffered cuts to his head and neck and had blood in his lungs. Jacob's been held at the Hennepin County Jail on a $1 million bond. If convicted, he could spend up to 40 years in prison. The investigation into the matter continues. A 27-year-old woman is behind bars after a 6-year-old girl with special needs fatally suffocated during a bus ride to school. At 9:04 a.m. on Monday the 17th of July, authorities responded to the Claremont Elementary School in Franklin Township, New Jersey, on reports of an unresponsive child. When first responders arrived, they performed CPR on the 6-year-old victim before transporting her to a local hospital's intensive care unit. where she was pronounced dead. The girl's been identified as Faja Williams. Faja was born with Emanuel syndrome, a rare chromosome disorder that left her unable to speak or walk, but she was still able to make sounds. Authorities learned that on the day of her death, the wheelchair-bound victim rode the bus from her home to attend classes as part of an extended school year. The bus monitor, 27-year-old Amanda De Villa, secured Faja's wheelchair in the back of the vehicle. On the way, the bus encountered road bumps causing Faja to slump, and her wheelchair's 4-point harness became tied around her neck, blocking her airway. During the incident, Amanda was toward the front of the bus on the phone wearing earbuds, which is a violation of policies and procedures. On Wednesday the 19th of July, Amanda was arrested and charged with second-degree manslaughter and second-degree endangering the welfare of a child. She's held at the Somerset County Jail. The investigation into the matter continues. 46-year-old Rhonda Jewell has been arrested after an infant girl in her care died after being left in a hot car for 5 hours. At around 8 a.m. on Wednesday the 19th of July, Rhonda picked up the 10-month-old girl from the infant's mother's home in North McLeany, Florida to babysit her. Rhonda then drove the infant a couple of miles to another house at 4596 Estate Street in South McLeany to also look after 3 children. While interacting with the other 3 children, she forgot she left the 10-month-old baby inside the SUV parked in the driveway. At around 1 p.m, the child's mother arrived at the home to collect her daughter when she found her daughter unresponsive in the babyseat of the SUV. At 1:12 p.m, the girl's mother called police to tell them that her child was not breathing, and her lips were blue as she picked her up and relocated her to the garage. Deputies responded to the scene, where they found the infant in the garage laying on the seat of a golf cart, and began performing life-saving measures. Medics arrived at the scene and took the child to Fraser Memorial Hospital, where she was later pronounced dead. Investigators reported that the infant's skin was very hot to touch. The internal temperature of the car reportedly reached 133 degrees Fahrenheit, or 56 degrees Celsius. Rhonda had reportedly been babysitting the 10-month-old girl off and on since June. Rhonda was taken into custody and charged with aggravated manslaughter of a child, and she was booked into the Baker County Jail. She made her first court appearance on the morning of Thursday the 20th of July, and was released on a $25,000 bond, on a condition that she wears a GPS ankle monitor and has no contact with the victim's family. The investigation into the matter continues. A 32-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting a woman. At around 1:15 a.m. on Thursday the 20th of July, authorities responded to a property in the 4000 block of Orange Street in Sefner, Florida after they received a 911 call with rustling noises in the background and no one speaking. Deputies from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office went out to investigate when they found a deceased woman in a car in the driveway of the home with severe upper body trauma. Investigators said that she had been shot through a car window as she arrived home at around 1 a.m. Relatives have identified the victim as Ashley Voss. Upon gathering evidence, they identified Aurelio Diaz as a suspect who had fled the scene. Authorities said that Aurelio and Ashley knew each other, but have not released a motive or details on their relationship. Paris Dubé, the grandmother of one of Ashley's children, said she watched Ring video that showed the man walking up to Ashley's car and shooting her. Paris said that Ashley has 2 young boys who will never see their mum again. For whatever reason you felt like you needed to do that. She was a mum, and she was a really good mum. She loved her boys, and now they're never going to know her, she said. At just after 8:30 p.m. that same day, Aurelio was arrested without incident about a mile away from the victim's home. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office Aviation Unit provided surveillance footage from the area of the arrest. Aurelio has been charged with first-degree murder with a firearm and is held without bail at the Hillsborough County Jail. The motive of the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. Authorities are investigating after a 30-year-old woman was found fatally shot. At 2:19 a.m. on Friday the 28th of July, authorities responded to North Village Shopping Centre at 6877 Dorchester Road in North Charleston, South Carolina on reports of a person shot. When officers arrived, they were flagged down by a crowd in the parking lot outside the Blue Maroon restaurant and found an unresponsive woman on the ground with a gunshot wound, with people attempting CPR on her. Medics arrived and took over performing life-saving measures and transported the woman to Centre Point Emergency Room, where she died at 2:57 a.m. The Charleston County Coroner identified the victim as Mayor Jennifer Simmons of Ladson. No arrests have been made to date, and the motive of the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 31-year-old man was fatally shot during an album release party. At around 3:25 a.m. on Saturday the 29th of July, authorities responded to the exquisite event space at 1890 East Parkway in Brooklyn, New York on reports of a shooting. When officers arrived, they found Cameron Hall of East Flatbush with gunshot wounds to his chest. He was rushed to the Brookdale University Hospital in a critical condition, but he could not be saved. Guests were celebrating the release of a Caribbean musician's newest release. The name of the performer has not been disclosed. The celebration included a mini concert. Witnesses told police that Cameron got into an argument with another man. As the dispute escalated, the suspect pulled a gun and fired several shots, hitting Cameron in the upper torso. The music at the club immediately stopped and the gunman fled the scene. Neighbours reported hearing fighting and screaming at the noisy party before police arrived. No arrests have been made to date, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 37-year-old man was fatally shot while trying to break up a fight between two women outside a bar. At around 4:30 a.m. on Saturday the 29th of July, authorities responded to 772 Richmond Terrace in New Brighton, Staten Island, New York on reports of a disturbance. When officers arrived, they found a man identified as Rasheem Flanders on the ground outside the Shakers Bar, in a critical condition with a gunshot wound. First responders rushed Rasheem to Richmond University Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. Authorities learned that Rasheem was leaving the bar when he spotted two women fighting outside. When he intervened to quell the fight, another man came forward and shot him in the head. The two women remained on scene, however the gunman ran away. Detectives are reviewing surveillance footage from the area that can help them identify the gunman. Rasheem lived in Hill Street in Clifton, less than 3 miles away from the shooting scene. Rasheem's mother, Jane Atkins Moyen, said that he didn't make a habit of hanging out at the bars, and that he could usually be found at home most nights with his two sons aged 9 and 3. Raheem got a tattoo the afternoon prior to the fatal shooting that read the words "Life Eternal." His mother said that was an affirmation of his belief in the afterlife. No arrests have been made to date, as the investigation into the matter continues. Myron Faith Bowie is wanted by police after setting his girlfriend on fire and threatening to kill a family. At 4:47 a.m. on Sunday the 30th of July, authorities responded to a home in the 24,500 block of 86th Place in Kenosha, Wisconsin after a woman rang 911 to say a boyfriend had set her on fire and that she needed help. Medics arrived on scene and transported the victim to a local hospital with severe burns. Authorities learnt that Myron and his girlfriend had an argument, where Myron told his girlfriend that he'll kill her, her children and her entire family. He then set her on fire and drove away. Myron remains on the run and is wanted for attempted homicide. The investigation into the matter continues. 73-year-old Rodney Lee will spend the rest of his days behind bars after fatally shooting his neighbours 62-year-old Sulmatu Gassio and 57-year-old Tibor Laszlo for turning off a tap. On Monday the 31st of July 2023, Rodney was sentenced to 30 years in prison after he admitted to the double homicide. The shooting occurred on the night of the 13th of January 2022 at their apartment complex at 10 McDonald Street in Mordialloc, Victoria, Australia. Rodney was retired and had no family or friends, but he took a great interest in gardening and had taken upon himself to care for and nurture the gardens in the common areas of the complex. He would often leave the hose running to water the plants. He had increasing disagreements with several of his neighbours about leaving the tap running in the garden, as well as his concerns about others making too much noise, or accusations that some were making or doing drugs. On the day of the shooting, Rodney returned to the hose to find it had been turned off. Rodney shouted in anger, "If you turn the hose off again, you bastards, I'll fucking kill you." As a result of his outburst, a heated exchange with another neighbour ended when Rodney struck the man with a chair. Later that night, Rodney went to move the garden hose to find it had been turned off again. Sulmatu and Tibor were part of a group socialising in the common area at the time. Rodney confronted the group when Sulmatu commented to Rodney that water is precious. Rodney then went to his apartment, grabbed a shotgun hidden under his bed, and returned to shoot Sulmatu in the upper arm and chest. He then followed Sulmatu and neighbours trying to help the injured man into another apartment, where he shot Tibor in the chest. Rodney also fired shots into another apartment. Police responded to the scene, and after a brief standoff, Rodney was arrested. Paramedics arrived and pronounced Sulmatu and Tibor dead at the scene. While interviewed by police, Rodney confessed to killing the men, but expressed no regret or remorse in his actions, and perceived himself to be a victim. "I've been provoked a bit, haven't I?" he asked police.